What's happening, everybody? This is Paul Jervy, the Moses of Finance, coming to you today with a Wednesday power shot. So, what I'm attempting to do with these Wednesday power shots is just take 10 to 15 minutes and essentially give you guys some information that may be able to assist you in your current financial walk. Whether, we're going to be talking about budgeting, debt, like today, I'm going to be talking about debt, investments, all these things. And then I'm also going to be tying everything in to the best of my ability with the word of God. And so, my whole goal and taking on this calling of being the Moses of finance is to help take you on an exodus from financial bondage to your personal promised land of prosperity. So, with that being said, let me get ready and jump in because I think that debt is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it is something that we're always looking for answers for, but not necessarily sure what actions to take. So, as a teacher, I want to give you some information, then I want to address some problems, then I'm going to give you some actions, and from those actions we'll get some results. So, hopefully this will resonate with you, and the information that I give to you, you'll be able to share it with other people, and we can start to get some of these people out of debt and never have to go into it again from a bad debt perspective, because we're going to jump into what is good debt and what is bad debt. So the first thing that I wanted to address is that the Bible does talk about debt in a lot of different areas. It does talk about debt in Romans. It says in Romans 13:8 that if you owe your debt, you should pay it. It also talks about in Proverbs 22:7 that the borrower is slave to the lender. And so when I read and study that scripture, I look at it like debt has become the new slavery. And when I thought about that last week, I literally wanted to find out, okay, well, how much debt are people in? And so when I looked it up, as of the third quarter of 2023, there was $12.1 trillion in mortgage debt. And mortgage, either in the Greek or Latin, means death grip, which means that anytime that you are in a mortgage, that debt has a death grip on you. And you have to figure out how you can remove that death grip. When you get a mortgage, pay it off. That's a good of your life. So 12.1 in mortgages, $1 trillion in credit card debt. That is something that blew my mind when I got an email about a week. $1 trillion in credit card debt. And really, this number took off last year, because last year, especially as we came out of the pandemic and stuff like that, we saw during the pandemic that people's savings accounts actually started to increase because we weren't spending that much. What ended up happening is, as things started to open up, then people started to spend what they were saving. So the savings started to go down a little bit, but the debt number started to kind of just stay a little level. But as we creeped into 2022 and then we got into 2023, what we noticed is that savings rates started to drop. So people started just spending what was in their savings, and then their debt amount actually started to increase, and it just started taking off because people just had this notion, okay, well, I want to get what I want to get, so I'll just pay off my debt when I can. And that usually never really works out. Auto loans had 1.6 trillion. Personal loans had $500 billion. So there's so much money, over $17 trillion, just tied up in regular debts that we use or that we think are normal as consumers: mortgages, credit cards, auto loans, personal loans. And so these are examples of bad debt. All right. So there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt, credit card debts. Because when you think about, and this is one of the problems that I generally see, is that when you get into debt, what debt allows you to do is consume more than you produce. But what you don't realize is that you're setting up a cycle for yourself, because that cycle basically says, okay, I'm spending a lot now, but at some reduce or consume less so that I can pay that debt back. The reason why most people can't get out of debt is because, from a human psyche perspective, we don't necessarily want to reduce how much we're spending. So we end up getting ourselves into more debt. So, really, when it comes to paying off debt, you got two choices: you reduce how much you're spending, or you make more money. And in my view, you have to be a person with a right mindset in terms of being able to produce more, because most of the times individuals that I sit down with and that I talk with don't want to do the work that's required to generate more income, but they also don't want to scale back their lifestyle to be able to pay off that debt. So therefore we become slaves to the lender. um, some other examples of bad debt: payday loans. Back in the day, man, when I was trying to build my financial planning practice, my wife will tell you I had a payday loan strategy out this world. Like, I had payday loans in Delaware, Jersey, PA, Maryland, and the strategy was nuts. But that's what I had to do at that point to make ends meet. Car loans are an example of bad debt, and the reason why I look at that is because most of the time, you're I'll say most people are purchasing a car that they don't necessarily need at that moment, or they can't necessarily afford. So it's like, I can afford these payments, but in actuality, you really should be able to, if you can, save up for it. As long as you got a car that's going to get you from point A to point B, my recommendation generally is going to be that you save up for it and then you pay for the car in cash, if you can do that. The only other reason why I would say that it's good to potentially get into debt for the car is if you're purchasing the car through your business, because then you're getting a tax deduction. So anything that's associated with that car loan debt is reducing your taxes. So that could essentially be counted as good debt. High interest personal loans, and then I see a lot of people money for lifestyle. So they borrow money to go on a honeymoon. They borrow money to get married. They borrow money to go on a trip and things of that nature. You don't want to do that stuff, because again, the debt is allowing you to consume more than you produce. So if you end up, let's just say, make $100,000 a year, but you apply for a credit card and that credit card gives you a $10,000 limit. Well, now you can spend $110,000, but really you're only producing 100,000. So once I run that credit card bill up, I'm only producing 100,000. So in order to be able to pay that credit card off, I've got to reduce what I'm living on down to 90 so that I can take the 10 and pay off that $10,000 credit card. But as I said before, most people don't necessarily want to do that. So what are some of the reasons or problems that cause us to get into debt? Number one is no emergency fund. Proverbs 6:6 says that you should learn from the ant and consider its ways. It also talks about it, I want to say, in Proverbs 30, where basically, when you think about it, what do ants do? In the summertime, they gather up what they need, because they know there's going to come a time where they're not going to be able to go out, and they're going to go into hibernation, and they're going to need things, period. And they're going from cycle perspective. So the Bible, you should learn from the ant and consider its ways. So when things are good, don't spend everything you have, put some money aside. The other thing that I think runs into or causes people to run into debt is impatience. Impatience can cause people to run into debt and make an impulsive decision. So it also kind of, I feel like, leads to that short-term gratification, because I want what I want now. I don't want to wait. And so because of that, I'm willing to go ahead and get into this debt. This interest rate might be ridiculous. This payment might strip some of my cash flow away, but I want what I want. So I want it now. I don't want to wait. So impatience and short-term gratification. The other piece is living beyond your means. And really, when a lot of people are living beyond their means, they're trying to impress somebody that they don't even really know. And one of my favorite quotes says that if you knew, I'm going to get it wrong, so I ain't even going to try. But if you knew what other people were thinking, yeah, I ain't gonna get it. So anyway, forget that quote. I ain't know what that quote really said anyway, man. But the issue is that most people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses are broke. The Joneses live on credit. And so you people want to end up having the fancy cars, the fancy clothes, the fancy shoes, and all those things to impress somebody. when most of your millionaires and billionaires don't even really dress like that. Most of your millionaires and billionaires are going to wear a plain t-shirt and some jeans, uh, and they're going to focus their attention on something else, focus their attention on how to grow wealth, how to accumulate wealth, as opposed to how they're going to end up spending their money. So if you're in debt, how do you get out of it? So the first thing that has to happen is you have to create a plan. You have to create a plan. So the plan that I want to refer to is a budget. And a budget is something that people don't necessarily like to talk about. It's almost like budgeting is like cussing for a lot of people. But when you think about it, even from a biblical perspective, um, the children of Israel at some point when they were walking through the wilderness ended up complaining because they missed the foods, the spices, and things that they were able to make when they were in Egypt. So they started praying and all those sorts of things, and God sent them manna. They liked the manna, but after a while, they really didn't like it, and it was something that they needed, but they didn't want to eat. They wanted to go back to Egypt and get the foods that they normally got. They didn't want what they needed. And so budgeting is very similar to the children of Israel's perception of what manna was. Budgeting is something that you need to do, but most people don't want to do because it doesn't taste good. So it's like a kid trying to eat. You're trying to tell your child to eat your vegetables, but they don't want to eat the vegetables because they don't like how it tastes. But budgeting is something that's needed, because budgeting is you telling your money where to go instead of trying to figure out where it went. So if you can tell your money where to go, then I can tell it, okay, I want you to pay this bill. I want to save you over here. And then I'm going to take you and I'm going to attack this debt over here. I'm telling it where to go instead of trying to figure out where it went. The second thing is you want to prioritize your debt. So whether you want to prioritize it based on the smallest amount, and then you use the debt snowball strategy, or you prioritize it based on interest rates, which is called the debt avalanche strategy. So either one will work. The difference is that just being disciplined to stick to the strategy that you're going to employ. So whether you're going to, and I do like the debt snowball strategy. It's a strategy that financial planners have been using for years and years and years. But from a psychological perspective, when you order your debts from small largest and you knock out that first one, you get those dopamine hits. You start to feel really good because you got one debt knocked out, and then you snowball that payment into the next one, and then you get that one knocked out and you snowball it. Now, I'm one of those advisors that recommends that you just take all of your resources and attack your debt, because I feel as though that if you do that, you're shortchanging the miracle working power of God. And so I do believe that if you're following biblical principles, that the Lord can give you an opportunity that can allow you to manifest or turn that blessing that he just gave you into substance, with basically more money, or he can give you a creative idea on your way to work. And so a creative idea that you get on your way to work, or even if you're just sitting somewhere, can be worth more than 30 years of an 8-hour day. And so when you just, to me, I feel like just there's too many scriptures that show the miracle working power and how God can do things financially. And plus, I've seen it in my own practice. So I believe that if you're going to attack your debt, budget it. And so a budget example could be you pay your needs, pay your needs, and pay your wants, right? And then whatever's left over, you break that down and say, I'm going to take 20% and I'm going to put that into savings. I'm going to take another 20% and I'm going to dump that into my debt. I'm going to take another 20%, put that over here for travel. Take another 20% and I'm going to put that over here for major purchases. And this other 20% is going to be my fund money. So you want to budget your expenses and your cash flow like that. That would be a plan. And so when you do something like that, now you're invoking what Jesus talks about in Luke 10, which is a management parable. And Luke 10, he ends up talking about how if you manage the little well, then the much will follow. So when you manage little, it attracts the much. Manage a little bit, and then the much is going to attract itself. And a lot of times people are ending up trying to chase the money. And because you're trying to chase the money, money always runs from you. So part of how you can increase your income is by chasing your purpose. So identifying what you're good at. Are you good at writing? So get started writing a book, doing some blogs. Are you good at doing poetry? Do some poetry, do some things like that. Are you good at selling? Start selling some things. Are you good at creating? what gifts do you have that can help you create more income on top of what you're doing at work so that you can knock this debt out? Because 9 times out of 10, when you're in debt, you're not going to want to reduce your spending so that you can pay down the debt, which is what we should do, but most people aren't going to want to do that. All right. So being disciplined with your budget and then being disciplined in your spending, it's okay to say no to some stuff. I'm pretty sure that if you say no to going out to eat because you wanted that steak, I'm pretty sure that when the time comes, you go back to get that steak, it's going to taste the same. It's going to taste the same. The shoes that you say that you wanted, I'm pretty sure that you can hop online somewhere and somebody's selling them somewhere. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to grab them. But right now, you got a plan. And so you want to stick to that plan because your plan is so that you can get yourself out of debt. And when you get yourself out of debt, now you can focus, especially when it's out of bad debt. Now you can focus on getting yourself into good debt. So what is good debt? Well, in Second Kings, in 4, there's a story where a lady comes and she talks to the prophet and she basically says, listen, my husband passed away. The debt collectors are coming and they want to take my 2 sons and put them into slavery. All right. And so when she brings this to the man of God basically says, all right, so what you want me to do for you? Well, she says, I need some help, and he basically gives her a strategy. The first thing that he does is he ends up saying, okay, well, what do you have in your house? And so to me, that basically means that what she needed was either already on the inside of her or she already had it somewhere within reach. So when it comes to trying to figure out how you can increase your or something of that nature, because it's about how you increase your income, you already have the gift inside of you. This is why the Bible says he blessed you in Genesis to be fruitful and not necessarily be seedful, because if he said be fruitful, that means that you've already got seeds of greatness already on the inside of you. So when we go back to this 2 Kings 4 passage, she tells the man of God, all right, I have a jar and I got a little bit of oil. Okay. He says, no problem. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go borrow some more jars. Go borrow as many jars as you can. Then I want you to bring them jars back and I want you to go into your house and I want you to fill all of those jars up with oil. Fill it until the oil completely stops. Then what I want you to do is I want you to go take that oil and I want you to go sell it. Once you sell it, take the money, the profit that you just made, pay off your debts, and then sell the rest of it and live off of the rest of it. So what did the Bible just teach you or tell you what to do? It basically told you that you get into debt to purchase an asset and then use that asset to pay off the debt. And once that debt is paid off, you can live off of the income. This is why people do real estate all day long, because all real estate is when you purchase a property, you pay off that mortgage, and then you end up taking equity out, buy another property, rent it out, use that income from that property, maybe a little bit of your income, pay that debt off, and now you've got passive income. And so you can repeat the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you get out of debt. You get out of debt by either increasing your income, reducing your expenses, and if I'm you, I'm thinking, okay, what am I good at and what can I monetize? Because the Bible also talks about how you should merchandise your wisdom. So what you know should be for sale and should be for sale for profit. So if you're in debt, create a budget. Remember, tell your money where to go, where it went. That's what the budget is going to do. Order your debts from either the highest interest rate or the lowest interest rate to the highest interest rate, or one of my favorites, which is ordering them from smallest debt to the largest debt. And then within your budget, identify how you're going to attack those debts. And so remember, once you put your income and your expenses on a piece of paper and you see what's left over at the end of the month, you take that and you say, okay, 20% or whatever your percentage is, 20% is going to go to savings, build my emergency fund so that when an emergency comes up, I don't run myself back into debt. Then I'm going to take another 20% and I'm going to knock this on, put it on this debt. And I'm going to keep doing this each month until that debt's gone. And then I'm going to snowball it. So whatever I was paying for that current debt, I'm going to take that, put it into the next one, along with the 20% from my budget. And then you take some more money, put it aside for travel, put it aside for investments, major purchase, all of those different things. But the biggest key is being disciplined. So, ladies and gentlemen, If you need professional help, I'm always going to put a plug in for my course, Eggs and and help people go from a financial bondage to their financial promised land. A lot of financial advisors and financial will not give you the advice and information that you're looking for unless you have a certain amount of money to invest. And so this is why God told me to create this program so that people could get the information that they needed so that either they could manage their finances better themselves or get themselves into a situation where they are going to be able to sit down with a planner at some point. So this program is a step-by-step self-paced program that is going to lace your knowledge level with biblical principles as well as financial principles. So go check it out. There's a link in my bio and my link tree. Go check it out and tell people about it. Check it out for yourself. But ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Jervey. I'm the Moses of Finance. Catch y'all down the road.